fix that. Look into your settings, and if you go into those triple bars in the upper, or you hit the little profile button on the bottom right hand side of your phone screen, then you go into the triple bars on the upper left hand side. Click on investing, and then go to margin settings. And under margin settings, there's one setting that says something like it's not margin income. It's oh gosh, it's something where basically you can on that page you can set your margin where you're gonna receive the money instead of it being used to pay your margin down. Because what's happening is your buying power is going up, but your available cash isn't necessarily going up with it. And so, but if you set, I want to say it's margin income settings. Email support at theblackbusinessschool.com because I know that there's a video inside your curriculum that shows you how to set that where you can actually get the income. The calls I sold, two of them are already past the strike price by $1 to $2, but have 1 to 3 weeks till expiration. Should I roll? I can't tell you whether you should roll or not, but I can say because nobody knows. It all depends on what the stock does. Sometimes you roll, sometimes you don't. A lot of times I don't freak out. I just wait until the expiration date, and when it gets close to the date, if I'm above the strike, then I make a move. So, for example, a lot of you had options that maybe were deep in the money before today, and then today happens, and now they're out of the money again, and you don't have to do anything. So, panicking and acting too soon is not always the best approach. And what is rolling? Rolling is where you basically get out of the old contract and get a new one. So think of it like getting married to another person after you want to get a divorce. Well, you got to divorce the first person and then you marry the second one, right? So basically, you got to get out of the old contract. So that means if you bought an option before, then you would sell that option and buy a new one. Or if you sold the option before, you got to buy that option back and then sell a new one. So whatever you did before, you got to reverse it. So a rollover is where you can do all that in one transaction to avoid any tax issues. How do you analyze a company to determine if you should invest in the stock? That's a pretty deep process for the most part, but I did put together an 11-step process. If you go to thedrboycemethod.com, that's thedrboycemethod.com, I laid out an 11-step process that you can go through to decide if you want to own a stock or not own this stock. Let's see. Alan says, "Hello, Dr. Watkins. I became an investor just a few years ago after discovering you on YouTube, but I have yet to start selling call options. I'm ready to get going, but my funds are low and spread out. Any ideas on getting started with $3,000?" Yeah, first thing is the bigger your capital base, the easier it is to generate income with options. So margin is your friend if that's something that you're not afraid to use. I use margin. Also, you can borrow it. If you know, I've seen people use a HELOC, maybe get some, borrow against an asset they own, like home equity, or borrow against their 401k, or raise the money, maybe work with family and friends, pull your money together and get it done. Because basically, the selling stock options is just like renting out apartment buildings. The more doors you own, the more rent you can collect. So if I can rent out 10 doors and I make $1,000 a door, then I make $10,000. If I can get 100 doors and I make $100,000 a month, the amount of money you make comes down to the number of assets you own. So when I sell stock options, the more stock I accumulate, the more options I can sell. So my one of my big goals financially is always to accumulate as much stock as possible. Lee Jackson, when selling the option, repeating monthly cover call strategy, generating cash flow is something one does manually or is it automated? It's something you do manually. At the end of the month, you can evaluate if it's how to sort of shift the contract, and that's why you log in to class because we go through that process a lot. So log in at drboyceprime.com.